Let you go first.
As a couple, we have a wonderful family. We raise them to be the best that they can be. As a couple, we both have the same faith and goals in life, and we enjoy each other's company. And I think that's one of the greatest strengths that we have. Most of all, is our faith and our family and being together.
The strengths of our union is the product of it, which is our children and our grandchildren. Five children, three daughters and two sons, and I believe 15 grandchildren.
15.
So that all comes from God. That's not something that we control or able to do without His permission. The only legal way to come in this world is when God sends you. So the five children were given of God, and now 15 grandchildren are given of God. And I believe that in itself represents more life that came out of this union. And nothing is more valuable than human life. No material possessions, none of that matters. And I honestly believe that it was given because of our relationship with God, that He would entrust us as stewards of what He Himself owns.
Okay, what have I learned about marriage? The marriage is a good thing. It should continue in the lives of people who want to be married. One of the good things about it is that you're not alone in this world. You have somebody to be with you throughout your success and whatever you do. You have somebody to talk confidentially with, and also to help you with your success and your struggles also. And I think it's good if you become one, and I think that's where we are right now, more oneness than being separate. So the more you are together and what your decisions are, the better it would be.
Um, I think that marriage in itself is the challenge of really losing who you are as an individual in some ways and reshaping it around who you are together. Because the individual person has to now sort of take second place if marriage is going to work to the union itself. And when you are able to do that, it literally reshapes who you are. Marriage, I think, helped improve my character as a person because it required so much of me that had been instilled in me as from my mother and my father, and I've tried to live up to that. And in this union, the infatuation we had was clearly sufficient for many years. You know, we just had this thing of she was beautiful, um, and and so it lended itself to then children. And so I've had all of these things that kind of helped me along the way until I got to be wise enough to know what marriage really was and what it means really. But before I had marriage, I had this very attractive person to keep me going, and then I had all these children being born, and now I grow even more in understanding what marriage is and being married to her because of what now exists. You know, I made that transition from some of these other things that I've mentioned to specifically children and grandchildren and what we've accomplished together in our professional careers and what we're now accomplishing together in being serving as pastors and the wife of a pastor of a local church. That's a good one.
I'm first.
It doesn't matter either way. Whoever goes.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all can also, jump in
Yeah, yeah.
into the conversation.
She's a good opposite of me. Really, really, especially with our kids. She's a perfect opposite of me. I'm going to be authoritative. She's not. I'm going to be real, it's a word to this, swift in what I do. She's not. She's just opposite of me. And opposites do attract,
yeah.
right? So I have all these things that's me, and she's just the opposite. But I would say that she compliments me from the standpoint of helping me slow down sometimes, and she compliments me from the standpoint of our children because sometimes they don't need an authoritative voice. They just need somebody to listen. That's what my daughters tell me a lot.
I agree totally what he just said. We are opposite. Where he falls short, I pick up the slack. In raising the children, I try to talk to them more. And he used to be very authoritative and he believed in punishment, whereas I would think of a more civil method, discipline. And he's a big spender, and I'm just the opposite. I know initially he liked expensive, fine cars, foreign cars. To me, it didn't matter.
Chevrolet.
Since then, I've upped my level of vehicles. That's why I have a Mercedes right now. He chose the Mercedes, and of course, it didn't matter to me. I went along with it. But he's an extreme in a lot of instances, and I'm just the opposite. I try to tone him down in a lot of areas, and he does listen. So we do complement each other in trying to make things a little bit more smoother and just more, regular.
Yes.
I'm gonna let him talk about the hurdles.
There were lots of hurdles. Well, starting out, of course, with no money, income was a hurdle. While you're going to school and trying to make ends meet, and then after going into state government, that became more stable, but it wasn't overnight, right? Because we had to acquire a home and all of that. And also, I think the greatest hurdle that I had was being worldly. And without going into any details of it, I really believe that was the most significant threat that family ever had. While at the same time, I know that I'm the most significant. I made significant investments in my family. I put them, so that, but it didn't happen overnight. It was that was up and down periods. When I say family, I mean my marriage and children. Okay, and so I think those were the greatest threats that we have, the ups and downs that I know of.
That's what I was thinking as he was speaking. We had very humble beginnings, being on campus, getting used to that campus life. I think Don got a little excited about being at Southern, and he enjoyed, I guess, the campus life a little bit more than I did. But we did settle down after we moved off campus and into our own home. Like he said, he was a little worldly. He liked fast cars, having fun and doing a lot of things. But now he's more settled.
Smoking marijuana.
Okay, if you want to say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
fast cars.
He's more settled now, which I'm pleased with where he is now as far as his entertainment and what he likes to do. I'm gonna let Donald start with that.
My legacy, or this family's legacy, is serving people. Serving people. The ministry of this gospel. That's the legacy, and it encompasses an enormously large number of families that we have served. Even in my profession as an educator in the Louisiana Department of Education, the Lord weighed so significant upon me as to who He had created me to be, that somehow or another I made that my job with the pen and writing, and eventually being able to offer after-school education to children who were academically behind as they are today. I'm still offering after-school education in St. Helena Parish, even to this day. But serving people, serving humanity, and keeping Christ as the center of your service, and honoring that, in my view, is the challenge not only for this family, and I'm praying that it will manifest itself in my children and in their children, but it is also a challenge, and they have to overcome the same challenges that we did. We had the other choices. They have to overcome those same challenges to establish their identity, which aligns itself with ours. My concern, more so than anything else now, as a challenge, is that their freedom or individuality will not rob them of who they are. of the legacy of who we are, that you would build upon the foundation your father and your mother have left you, as opposed to going off and starting another foundation. I think that's the secret, because Jehovah or the Lord God deals with generations. And so he doesn't start something in one generation for it to end in that generation, but instead that the legacy would continue on and then on and on and on. But individuality, however, in my own humble opinion, is an enemy to that. And so I pray that my children and my children's children could see the legacy, embrace it as their identity, and go on in life. That God would get the glory.
Just to add to what Dollars just said, I was thinking about how we strive for education in our family. I look at our children, how well they're doing, our grandchildren, how well they're doing. They all seem to be on the right track as far as seeking excellency in whatever they're doing. They all are making good grades, and I like the fact that they all are pursuing, their careers, and the younger kids are doing extremely well in school. So I would like to see that continue and to be part of what we are and who we represent.
So in the heart of the legacy is Jesus. It's education. It's hard work and honesty, which is what my father and my mother gave me. I have sought, and we have sought, to pass those same values on the generations to come.
Mm-hmm.
However, again, the challenge to that is individuality, which is noble. Everybody has the right to be their individual selves. But self in itself cannot be the definition of your life. Instead, it is how you lend self to a greater purpose than who you are and form your identity from that. That's what I call wisdom, that I didn't have at 19, but I have it now.
Wow, that's a fun question.
Yeah.
I used to dance really good, but right now I'm out of practice. Definitely out of practice. I wouldn't say, I don't know.
I was the better dancer,
Okay.
but I'm not now. She always could dance, and there would be couples of men sitting around when we would be dancing, and some nights they would tell me, "You're really trying hard, but she got you beat." And but I at one point I really did, capture audiences in dancing, nightclubs. I had this James Brown routine that I would do, and I had these fancy clothes on. But she always had this tempered, real smooth quality, fluent movements that were distinguishable. And because she was very pretty and shapely, so that had a lot to do with most people watching her more.
We both will survive. We're going to be together. We'll survive.
No, he said, who's most likely?
Oh, it was by myself? Oh. Well, my survivor instinct will definitely kick in. I promise you. I'm a realist, and under stress, I'm pretty strong. So I believe I will survive, and I think he will too. I think we both have those qualities about us, but you want to know
Who's
who would most?
likely?
I'm gonna say I will.
That is a fun question. And she's really being funny. Now it's two different worlds in that regard. It's two different worlds. I've always said, as I said earlier, when she left her mother, she may have been 18. And then she came to me as a wife. She has not seen one day in this world. That's why she still looks as good as she do. One day in this world on her own. And so when it comes to survival, that is something that she would have to learn on that island. Because right now, she haven't had to do that. Because either it was her mother or 50 years later, over the 50-year period, it's been me.
I'd like to interject on your comment.
Yes.
Even though it was you or it was mom, but y'all forget that I had a strong relationship with God.
No, I didn't forget that.
Well, I'm reminding
Both
you
of us had a strong
that
relationship with
in
God.
times of trouble, I know who to call on. I know.
Okay.
And that's what I've done all my life. So I know I will survive because I have the faith and strength that I would do it.
That's a good answer. That's exactly how I'm going to survive.
Okay.
All right, so we're on the same page.
Yes.
But would you agree I've been through more tests?
No, I would not.
Okay. All right.
I'm a better cook. He's a better griller. He grills. He does the barbecue. He does the meats. That's what he does extremely well. But when it comes to a meal and really cooking, I get that from my mom, and I know she was the best. And I'm out to say, as far as that part, I have it down pat. What you say? You?
Well, I would say that when I married Genita,
You doing history?
she could only cook pancakes. That's all. And she learned to cook greens, mustard greens, from my mother. Sadie was clear. She didn't get a chance to train her. She said she learned from her mother.
I did. I learned by observation
Well,
in the kitchen.
She learned a lot of her cooking also from my mother. There are certain things she cooks, like my mother even to this day, because that's where we stayed when we got married. Okay. And so, but I would say that she cooks better than I do, but it's not a whole lot better. And lately, I do quite a bit of the cooking. And she has never grilled anything. And yet, she eats grilled food 3 and 4 days a week. So it's a, once again, you see this giving and the balance here?
We complement each other.
Yes. Okay. And she bakes real well, too, by the way.
Yeah, baking is cooking.
Oh, my God.
That's an easy question.
That's a very easy question.
Yeah.
I did.
You want to talk about how bad you were?
Doesn't matter.
But him.
Yeah, I stayed in trouble. I had a lot of speeding tickets because I drove extremely fast automobiles. And that, whether it was in Mississippi or wherever, Texas, that these tickets from everywhere. And back then, they would follow you. But I drove cars fast. And I think, that was a prominent part of my adolescency and young adulthood and college life, really and truly. And it was impactful then. One incident after another. I crashed cars at above 119 miles an hour. I have more than one. I've been in crashes. Porsche automobiles that I own. And it obliterated our income situation. Because literally we were paying more for cars than we did our home. Selfishness on my part.
Okay, all right. These supposed to be fun questions.
Okay, all right.
Let's see.
And some of my speeding, she was screaming to the top of her voice on at least 6 or 7 instances. I mean, screaming for her life.
That's not fun. That's not fun.
It's not fun, but it's true. It was fun. It was fun for me because we were just having fun, but it was frightful to her.
Okay, that's we supposed to talk about fun things.
It was fun. It was fun for me. All right.
Going out to eat is one. Vacation is another. Going to church. What else, Hunter?
That's about right. And cooking to this family as we do every Sunday.
Yeah.
That has become a way of life.
I think the tradition really got off the ground with birthdays. We started celebrating everybody's birthday, but the family started growing more and more. So that means more and more birthdays and more gatherings. And then when Don started cooking, well, he started barbecuing on Sunday. And when everybody knew he was doing that, everybody would come over. And of course, I would do the side. So it became a habit. Started with the birthdays, the gatherings, and then on Sunday. It just extended to on Sundays. Because that's when everybody come home. The grown kids who moved out, they usually visit back on Sunday. And so that's when we start celebrating every Sunday after church.
Well, we actually started going to restaurants. I would buy food for the family and we would eat together. And the whole concept was family, okay, and nourishing that. But the service was so erratic in restaurants and serving a family the size of ours that I decided to start doing it here that I could do as well as the restaurants was. We would get waiters sometimes that didn't want to handle this properly. I won't go into any further details, but I will say that we just started to shift it to the house. We've always had the celebration of birthdays that she brought to this family from her mother. Sadie religiously did that for every child every year. She brought that same thing to this family. And so now with all 6 children and 16 grandchildren and wives.
5 children.
Okay, 5 children, excuse me, and 15 grandchildren, we celebrate birthdays, most of which are here at the house. But that never has stopped us from, if we celebrate a birthday like we did yesterday, Sunday they'll be back over here looking to eat again. Okay, so, but the concept is, I've told them I wasn't interested in um, their their physical attributes, or for that matter, physical hunger. That this was all about family, and that you look out for one another when we leave this world. That's what this investment, an enormous investment, honesty, an enormous investment, has always been about, was instilling family values, that they would look out for one another when she and I had left this world, the generations to come. Someone that would pick it up and carry it on, and yet not just for the sake of carrying it on, but when there are difficulties within one family, the others would gather around that family and help get them through that moment. That's what this whole concept is about. That's the way I was brought up. All of our families, we were, there was a oneness in it. And my uncle, Sam Joseph Hunter, would kill 15 hogs and 2 or 3 cows, and we would be carrying shoulders of meat from one house to another, so that every family would have food for the winter. Well, that never left me. And if he did it, I really felt that I could. He impressed me in such a way that I wanted to hold on to that, of learning from being in his presence. Every one of them. And some more than multiple times, but every one of them. Some on very serious things, with health of our grandchildren. But I would say with Leah was when she wrecked her first car that I bought her en route to work in the State Department of Education. She ran into the tree with an MGB automobile. I'll share some of those pictures with you. Leah needed a car to go backwards and forth to school. She had excellent grades, never was short in any of that. And so we had to figure out a way to how to get that done so she could continue on in school and to do that in such a way that she would be successful. And we did. We did that. And there are so many instances with every child, as you should and you will have to go through, whether it's Leah, Nina, Donald, Abrielle, or David, that we've had to be there in significant ways to get them to this next step. That's what parents are for.
Of course, I agree 100%. They've all had problems that we had to intervene with, some more than others. The older kids did not get into as much trouble as the younger ones. It seems like later on in the years, the problems became more serious, but it did not deter what we had to do to get them out of it. But as far as supporting them in whatever situation they got in, we were there. Just say that.
The most significant thing about reaching 50 years is the confident knowing that the day that I saw this young lady on the streets and said to myself and my brother that that was going to be my wife, that I made a good choice. But I know that it wasn't my choice. I know that it was Jehovah choosing a wife for me, without getting into any trouble, given the other people that were involved in my life at the time. And yet this young lady was so crystal clear. And now, 50 years down the road, there's this host of children and grandchildren. There's a career of state government of 31 years that she's accomplished. There's a graduate, there's a baccalaureate and a graduate degree from LSU that she's accomplished. Not to mention being a mother and a faithful wife. So when I look back over 50 years, I see a whole lot. And I don't take it for granted. I know that God is involved in every bit of it, and that He's the one who gave me this mate, and I try to treasure it that way. Let me say this, and this is not a question that you asked. No matter how wearily I've ever been, there are two things I've never been ever wavering about: my commitment to this marriage and my commitment to God. And I always recognized that the shortness was in myself, and I never tried to deceive myself about that. Well, where it's in her, no, it's never been in her. So the value of your family, and if I would say anything to young people, when you stand before God and you make that oath to join in holy matrimony, you do it until death do you part. Don't give me the things that you disagree about, and now because you disagree, you don't want to be married to one another. That's not marriage. Marriage is stronger than that. Well, she don't like this and I do like this. Marriage is stronger than that. Well, he said this and he did this to my family. Marriage is stronger than that. Marriage is stronger than all of these things that will attack it, including within oneself. But marriage is stronger than that because you made the commitment, and it's holy. And anything holy cannot be defeated, cannot be destroyed, cannot die. Holiness cannot die. And so it's holy matrimony. We made our vows before God, and it has been what have withstood the test of 50 years, that we are still together, that we're still able to make one another smile, that we still look fairly decent, and that we have all these wonderful children and grandchildren, that we're still in the church serving God. That's huge to me, and I'm very comfortable with our identity, our legacy. We just continue to work on the same thing every day of our lives.
I'd like to add to that, when you make 50 years, that means that you have weathered quite a few storms and that you come out of them. And when you come out of them, you're a better person.
Yes.
So with 50 years of growth is what I've seen within us. Him as well as myself, we have both grown. And it took 50 years to do it. I mean,
that's true.
I mean, we now tolerate each other under most circumstances. We agree in most situations. There's no disputes. We get along fine, perfect, no problems that I can think of. I can't think of a problem that we have. We've learned each other personalities. I know him, he know me. Sometimes we think alike. Sometimes when he want to eat something, I already know what he want to eat. We just become more oneness, and that lends to being more unified. And that's where we are with that. With 50 years, if you can make 50, you've made a great accomplishment because the battle is over. I mean, you can now just have smooth sailing, and that's where we're at.
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, Ken, I think that your questions have been so diverse that they've lent itself to the journey, and you've captured all aspects of it, to be perfectly honest with you. When I go back in my mind and I think about where we started and my conversations I had with you about Sadie and how we courted one another and what did we do, and you've covered almost everything I can think of. And I've tried to honestly speak to it as earnestly as I can, because I know this is a matter of permanent record for my children and my grandchildren and my unborn generations to see that we've left on record here today. And so I thank you for your skills and the thoughtfulness that you put into these questions. And I can't wait to see the final document.
I'd just like to add that I did enjoy this session. First I was a little anxious because I didn't know what you were going to ask, but I liked the questions. They allowed me to reveal what I wanted to say, and I think y'all did a good job with coming up to, with getting those questions together. But I do recommend marriage for those who can find the right mate, and I just recommend them not to give up so soon. Just, try to be patient and ask God to help them within their marriage, because that's what they're going to need for longevity.
And if I would say anything to a person looking for a mate in life, don't look in the bars, the nightclubs, and having fun. There's nothing wrong with all that. But if you're looking for a mate, look for someone who has common background that you have. If you're a Christian, you ought to look for a Christian mate. And you ought to look for them in somebody's church. You won't have to teach them to go to church. They're already in the church. That's real crucial, because a lot of times in our marriage, what didn't hold between she and I was the Word of God. And if there's any secret to these 50 years, it is the secret of the strength of the Word of God and keeping a family nourished, centered, and functioning the way it should. The only challenge in that is, will both mates be willing to submit to that word? And the rest is real simple. In that submittal, you get security, you get happiness, you get blessings that you cannot receive except that you have submitted your union to God. That's the wisdom of this 50 years. Amen.
That's it.
That's it. All right, cool.
That's it.
All right.
All right, y'all. That was great.
Okay.